Two persons of interest in the foiled bombing attempt near the U.S. Embassy this week are now in custody. National Capital Region Police Director Oscar Albayalde said the persons were identified with the help of a composite sketch of the suspect, whom witnesses said left the bomb along Ross Boulevard on Monday morning. One of the two persons is from Bulacan but has roots in Marawi City. The other person of interest is from Caloocan. Albayalde says they might invite a third individual for questioning, depending on the information from these two persons. To delve into these recent incidents, we have Jean Franco, a political science assistant professor at the University of the Philippines. Professor Franco, welcome.
Hello, good evening, Robbie.
The palace again denying that they are looking at suspending the privilege of the writ of habeas corpus, bombings here and attempted bombings, incidents, this war front in Marawi. But when it comes to the suspending the privilege of the writ of habeas corpus, the point is, despite the denials of government, we're still talking about this. What's going on?
Well, exactly, Robbie. And the mere fact that the administration has to be defensive about it tells you that there are talks that, it might lead to that, or they're also learning from the context within which this administration is implementing some of its programs.
Let's clarify one thing. It's one thing if there was an attempted bombing, there was a quote-unquote an ambush on PSG personnel in Marawi. Now you have the Maute group, you have rallies going on, anti-Marcos spilling over into anti-Duterte. But you take all of those aside, those are not the reasons why we're talking about suspending the privilege of the writ of habeas corpus. We're talking about this because it was the president who floated this a few days ago.
It also tells you that some people are a bit wary about, the situation, and they're trying to, because, the president has been, related to the Marcoses in more ways than one because of the burial at the LNMB. So it's very easy for people to draw some parallelisms between the Marcos regime and the current administration.
And there is a very clear link politically between the Marcos family and President Duterte, is there not?
Yes, indeed, yeah.
And do you think this plays into, how would you call it? I mean, this overarching concern now about all things Marcos and the legacy of Marcos, particularly martial law and the suspension of privilege of writ of habeas corpus.
Yeah, exactly. And because the president has been quoted in many statements, even before the elections, during the campaign period, and right after the elections, that he's quite politically close. He's a best friend of Bongbong Marcos. So it doesn't help his case, no matter how he denies. So it doesn't help his case. And the mere fact that he was so gung-ho, for instance, in having former President Marcos be buried in LNMB, it also tells you a lot about his so-called commitment to the Marcos family. And it doesn't help his case, even if he explains that it's purely for legal reasons.
We'll take a look later on at what's happening at that rally at the People Power Monument. But is there something in that rally that we should be watching, particularly in the coming days? Is this something that's bound to grow, do you think? Or is this something that is this it as far as that movement is concerned?
Well, my sense is that it's something that is bound to grow. The constituency is already building. And if there was such a honeymoon period, so to speak, with regard to the Duterte administration, I think it's over at this time.
It certainly seems as if the anti-Marcos, or even more specifically, the anti-Marcos burial at the libingan ng mga bayani, has given a lot of people an excuse to be more overt, more expressive, more explicit about bridging their anti-Duterte sentiments.
Yeah, In fact, if you look at all the press statements in the last few days, a lot of sectors are already joining the cause. Like, for instance, the CBCP gave its blessings on the protest rallies today. A lot of people from the academe, prominent personalities, are already, building the case against the Marcoses and linking them to Duterte's accountability.
Professor Franco.